Danny and Clementine Save the World and Each Other is a book about modern-day gentrification in Chinese communities, but if we're being really accurate, it should be called Danny and Clementine Save the World and Each Other from Online Dating and the Horrors of That Dumpster Fire. So anyway, Clementine runs an anonymous blog where she gets into regular online spats with a troll who turns out to be a boy from her school who ends up helping her save the locals from being pushed out of Chinatown. Okay, just for some context, I just sort of read this because I was in a reading slump and I just had a big life detour with anime and everything like that. So I thought it'd be good to get back to my roots just for a little bit. So I was just scrolling through Epic Reads recommendations and this one was like blasted as their big new draw of upcoming new releases, and I read the synopsis and was like, oh ho 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 ho, looks like a plot with a messy online life, but also actual real problems, not just like, oh my god, there's a test at school, oh no. Like, I already know that, I don't need to relive that. But also I don't need to relive this, so I actually don't know what that says about me. So I was just thinking, could be interesting. But here's the thing, I'm also not really huge on contemporary romance because I'm like, ew, people who have like hot classmates and neighbors, like, ew, people that take real steps in approaching the other person for a date, couldn't be me. So yeah, just keep that in mind in case you think I'm hating on it. My usual cup of tea would be some world-ending fantasy shit, but clearly this is from my point of view, where you can only boink if you're about to die. It's even better if one of you actually does die, you know, makes the pain and suffering that much more real. But anyway, it's a cute story. If you want like a cute girl and cute boy to get together without the melodrama of like a love triangle, with the backdrop of them two doing anything they can to save what they knew of as home, this will be right up your alley. Everything from here on out is spoilers, so obviously go read it. I'm here to discuss, I'm not here to like save you from spoilers, okay? But let's get into the tea because I'm chaotic and that's just way more fun. Okay, so the girl Clementine, she runs this like tea blog for fun, which she reviews tea shops and even gives suggestions on how to improve. One of her biggest through lines though is that she's like basically the tech bro mantra, like adapt or die, though not as douchebaggy about it. Danny, on the other hand, is like a tea purist and writes kind of these incendiary comments on her blog calling her out for her adapt or die mentality. And in that case, he'd rather die. Okay, but I want to mention this like early on. Like, this is the thing I found really funny. His username is bobaboy888. Like, okay, if you're a tea purist, like my mom, basically, you wouldn't even accept milk in tea. I think he even calls it out as blasphemy at one point, which was really funny. And boba is traditionally put into milk tea. So it's like, what? Like, if you're so against this Instagram tea shifting culture, then putting milk and tea together and putting boba into it should be on your hit list. It's kind of weird. Like, he's better off being named Oolong Shlong or something that would fit like a 17-year-old boy's like username better, you know? Like, I just find it really funny that he's against this evolving culture of tea, yet his username is Boba Boy. But it's not even written in like a satirical way, like I'm named something that I hate the most. No, it seems like very genuine, so I don't know. Anyway, so it's already starting out kind of messy, right? And to be clear, I don't mean the book itself is written messily. I mean like the situation's kind of messy. I want that distinction to be very clear because the author didn't do a bad job with this. Okay, so Clementine only allows Boba Boy to keep stalking and commenting on her blog because he stood up for her after like one racist commenter got to her a while ago. But they still have this thing where they kind of fight online. I think it's like trying to be a version of enemies to lovers. So in the meantime, Clementine is encouraged to take actual steps to get signatures and support from her community for the giant Kale Corporation that's moving in. Yay for supportive Asian parents in the media. Danny comes from a more traditional household where his parents try to keep him in the dark for everything, but then he ends up signing up to help Clementine, and their like first non-date is like super awkward. And definitely kudos to the writer for writing the guy here. I was like, dang, why do I feel like I've actually been on a Hinge date with this guy? Yeah, the male awkwardness and brain buffering is kind of on point. Not like it didn't buffer for me either, but it was just like, man, I feel like I've been in this situation before. Yikes. So it's a bit of a slow burn with them going around gathering signatures, and the one thing that kind of roll my eyes at is like, I don't really need to hear this inner monologue of like, oh, you think he's cute? Oh, you think she's kind of cute with her hair like braided like that? I'm being so evil, I'm sorry. There are plenty of things in this book that are already allude to that, like they already feel that the other person is like, more than just my first impression, right? The biggest show not tell for me moments, those are great. Like, I think Danny finishing up gathering signatures from a certain building when Clementine's foot really hurt, that was good. Like, more of that, like him bringing food, or like her, you know, helping out with, you know, pushing him to kind of get out of his shell a little bit. I want more of that, less of like, ooh, I think he's cute. Even though I think that's super relatable, I guess, for other people. Maybe just not for me. I'm just like heartless and cold like that. Maybe I just live in a place where like everyone's like, questionable. Yeah, I just don't think like that. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so then they get into their big moment, right? Where they need to give this huge speech in front of like a lot of people about Chinatown. And one of the stories which they like are kind of ramping up to is Danny, who's lived there his whole life. So there's this other thing that kind of bothered me about the book. It's kind of like the whole book is basically written in a whole train of speeches that they're giving at different times, right? But rarely do we hear in dialogue what these speeches are. Like, it's like, okay, I'm invested. Danny's terrible at writing his speech. He's getting notes from Clementine that he gets really mad at and like really defensive, but then he reworks it and is like, okay, speech time, speech time, speech time, you know? But then when it's actually time for him to give the speech of the book, it's kind of just written as like, oh, I said my speech and then everyone wet themselves or something like that. I mean, basically we never get to hear these supposedly amazing speeches. We only get one real speech that left any impact, but it was actually in the form of a blog interview post. I mean, like, I get it, you don't have to write out all the speeches, but the one that leads to the main characters kissing and PDAing all over the place, I think that one should get the Obama treatment, you know? So it's funny because right after they get together, Danny finds out Clementine is the writer of the blog he's been trolling, and this is probably my favorite part of the story because I expected a mess and I got a full-on hoarder's house of a mess. And then to make matters worse, his friend turns in a viral video that clowns on Clementine's blog with his name attached to it. And then like a giant army of racists and haters descend on her. So then he calls her up and he's like, oh, sorry I sent the Legion of Doom after you, but also your blog sucks, kind of. Like, I can't believe you're the same person, like WTF. And just to add more to that, he gets the news that his parents are closing up the shop right before Clementine comes over. So Clementine, who might be well-meaning, like, I can word even though she can't really, is like, says some like kind of insensitive things that end up connecting her to her online persona. And then Danny just goes like, what the F? You are Hibiscus. Oh yeah, her name's Hibiscus online. And then Clementine's like, what the F? You sent the Injustice League on me? Oh my god, and Boat Boy's also a dick? Like, what? I honestly thought about this myself because I don't know if I'd be able to date somebody who I've been feuding with online. Differences in opinions, sure, but also there are ways of saying things or going about it which is like completely stripped away with when you're online. Like, nuance doesn't really exist in a lot of comment sections, so I mean, props to Clementine for being able to like put that aside by the end of the book. Even though, of course, like, he denounced it and completely, but still, it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like it would take a while or something for me to, you know, get past that if I had to. And even, I wouldn't even know if I had to, you know? Yeah, so, like, even if he didn't mean it in the most venomous way, like, that's kind of all I got to see in the moment, and it would truly be the biggest challenge for me to get over that. Because here's the thing, I could also argue that some people are only truly themselves being online. There's a lot of people that have a great amount of hate in their heart and express it online because they know they don't have to deal with the consequences of that in real life. Like, in real life, they'd have to deal with people cutting them out of their lives, you know? Like, I have a secret Twitter account where I just drool over fan art, and I would argue that's very much a core part of who I am, where I just don't show that to the people around me. But yeah, after all the messiness, it cleans up and it gets tidied in a nice bow. The corporation takes over like it would in real life, but they're also trying to set up a land trust to make sure people don't get priced out of the place that holds a lot of cultural significance. So this part was introduced very much earlier on, but it felt kind of like a little bit of an afterthought. Like, I think the author should have probably made the fight about making the land trust happen more than the fight to save Chinatown. I just feel like if there's only one thing that people would have taken away from this book is that the land trust is a real way of people having to be able to preserve a town, and I think that's more important. Danny and Clementine making out should be like the nice afterthought. Oh, but I do really like how the author called that out through the mother's character, Danny's mother's character. People doing these supposedly good philanthropic things like saving Chinatown would stir up some commotion, but in the end, when it fails, they kind of just move on to the next project, and then people that live and work there are the ones that really have to pick up the pieces. So that's just way too real, like too real. All in all, it's kind of just a light read. I just thought it'd be fun to discuss or just like throw my thoughts on the video for this one. Trying to get out of the reading slump. trying to get back into YouTube. We'll see. Yeah, just let me know if you read it, what your thoughts were. Don't forget to hit the like button, leave a messy comment, since that seems to be the theme of today's book, and click subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.